is a business radio show where we talk about all the craziness of small business. It's that craziness that actually makes it exciting, interesting, and totally unpredictable. This is Business Insanity Talk Radio with your host, Barry Moltz.
Well, good morning. Today is Friday, January the 17th, 2014. For those keeping track, this is show number 256. I want to thank our sponsors, Sage One and Nextiva, for sponsoring the show. Tom DePetrillo has been in the venture capital and investor banking business for 35 years, working with such investment firms as Kidder Peabody and Joseph Fall, Lyon and Ross. Tom has been responsible for more than 80 IPOs and numerous public placements. Since 1994, Tom has been a private investor and the principal of Providence Capital Group, a venture capital turnaround firm. Tom, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Barry. Great to have you to be on. Thanks.
Well, you wrote a book called Don't Stop the Roller Coaster, and most small business owners would say, wait a second, I want to stop the roller coaster. I can't stand it. Why should we not stop the roller coaster?
Because you never know what the next turn's going to bring.
And so talk about
that. It may be downhill for a long time, but
that's right.
Eventually even roller coasters stop or go back up again.
And so tell us about, is that one of the keys to being successful, I guess, in business and life, is you got to be willing to ride the roller coaster up and down?
I would put it slightly different. It has a lot to do with age, obviously. When I was in my 20s, I took some risk I would never take today now that I'm over 70. But I truly believe in second and third and sometimes even fourth chances. So if you're a young person, you start a business, you have the funding, you have the people, everything seems right, but maybe you're in the gas business or own a gas station and there's an oil crisis and the price doubles and you go out of business. You'd say, gee, I had everything going for me, but I still went out of business. You know something? You're going to start again, and chances are you'll be smarter. You'll probably do a better job, and you've learned a lot of lessons. I learned most of my lessons on the downside, not the upside.
And so you really come from, public housing beginnings. Talk about that, how you really got out of that world to really become very successful.
Well, I think that's one of the whole reasons I wrote the book. It's really an unusual story because actually I never attended high school either. I was a ninth grade dropout. I have 10 brothers and sisters living in a housing project, and the older ones had to go to work and support the family. But when I turned 17, I joined the service, and I picked the right training. I worked on missiles and met Warner Van Braun during my training at Rudson, Alabama. And I got out in 1961 when knowing electronics and engineering was the hottest job you could have. I got hired by General Electric and spent 4 or 5 years being an engineer, making a lot of dollars. So the key is that I surround myself with MBAs, but in fact I'm a high school dropout.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. In the part of the book called Hard Lessons, you have a great quote here. You said, cutting losses makes sense both financially and psychologically. Don't get embittered and depressed about continuing a losing proposition. Go to zero, start over. I find this is so valuable. But, Tom, so many people have a hard time just letting go. They get stuck. How do you get out of that?
Well, I did it myself, so I have personal experience. It's the toughest thing in the world to wake up one day and realize that it's not going to happen and you're not going to recover. And if you spend 6 more months trying, you're 6 months behind your turn. So if it's truly the end and you have to go to zero, it's better to do it sooner or later to get a fresh start. It's the toughest decision anybody can make. But if you're bright enough to go into business for yourself, you should be bright enough to realize when that time comes.
Now, in the book, you have the part 2 where you talk about what I learned from the roller coaster. And you talk about you spent a good amount of time on Wall Street, and, things really have changed. What has changed and what did you learn?
The key date to me is 1987 when we had the first market crash. What I learned from early in the business to 1987, and then when I actually left the business in 96, was that computers the difference. So in the old days, when you bought a stock, you really weren't sure what the price was at that instant. And with computers now, not only do you know it at the instant, you know within a fraction of a second. You could do a trade within a fraction of a second. That eliminated what we call the transaction business for stockbrokers. So all the stockbrokers that I know over the years are no longer in the business because there's no money made in transactions. The brokers today, all they do is bring dollars in for the firms to manage, which is probably smart. Big lesson from Wall Street, it's an insider's game. And I don't mean that in a legal sense. What I mean by that is with 35 years experience on Wall Street, knowing everybody and having taken 80 companies public, I have a distinct advantage in terms of investing versus someone that's a doctor or a lawyer or a different profession that is not full-time engaged in the financial markets. It's a dangerous, it's insider's game. I recommend people just find good financial managers to handle their dollars, like a Fidelity or some of the big fund managers would be a good choice. Trading is a Tetris, a very difficult game.
Now, I just got tweeted here by Will, and he just wanted me to ask you this question. When does he know, Tom, to keep trying, and when do you know to start over? In other words, when do you know when to hold them and when should you fold them? What's the key sign?
Well, one of the key signs is probably your banks. And if you've borrowed dollars, incidentally, just throw it in. I did a lot with SBA early in my career. I haven't used them in years. They're a great way to get started. So you add up all your assets and liabilities, you add up your revenue, and you just have to be very realistic. Will next year be better if I hang on for 1 year? Will next year pull me out and increase my sales and make it a break even or better? Or am I really being honest with myself and saying, you know something, I opened the restaurant, I thought I was a good cook, but somehow I'm not getting repeat customers. It looks like I'm not in a good spot, whatever it is. And I'll throw another thing in there. Restaurants are probably the worst business for anybody to get into anyway.
Really?
So,
it's like my friend says to me, I really want to open up a restaurant business. And I say with him, beer do you have? He goes, well, I like to eat at restaurants. I'm going, well, I don't think that's the same thing.
But I've heard that story so many times. I'm a good cook. I should be able to be in the business.
Really?
The only business they should be in, and maybe it should be on TV on the cooking shows, but not running a business.
Now, I know that you're from Warwick, Rhode Island. I was in Providence last November speaking at a business conference. I got to tell you, you've got a lot of great small business there in that state, so I want to congratulate you for that.
You know something? We truly do. And my brother was director of tourism for 22 years in Rhode Island in part of the economic development. Rhode Island is a fabulous state, not just to live in, but to have a business in. And I know some images of Rhode Island, that's a tough political environment and so forth. Some of the stuff might be valid. But having lived here all my life, let me tell you, it's a great place to live and a great place to start a business. And so there's a lot of venture capital people in Rhode Island also. I was also the founder of the first incubator, I believe, in the country with over 100 companies in my facility. It was a 100,000 square foot old mill. I converted it into an incubator.
Wow, that's really fantastic.
Which is another great way to, if you have a service or some kind of industry that could use that kind of facility versus having your own building or office space and so forth, it's a great environment because you share, everything from the secretaries, the receptionists, and printing and conference rooms. It's a cheap way to get into business if it's in a service area.
Right. Well, Tom, I appreciate you being on the show. Where can people get a copy of the big book, Don't Stop the Roller Coaster?
Go right on Amazon, and you'll see it. If you want to go on our site, our blog, it's Tom DePetrillo book, DePetrillo. And Barry, I can't thank you enough. It's been great to talk with you and your listeners.
Tom, thanks so much. Hope to see you next time in Rhode Island.
Thanks. Great.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.